From our Toronto studios, this is Muslim News on Muslim Network Television. Assalamu alaikum, my name is Saleha Faruque. First, let's begin with the headlines. In a major win for 45 million student debtors, the Biden administration has extended loan payment freeze. Biden says a Trump candidacy would motivate second-term run. CAIR says that it has discovered 3 of its staff spying for an anti-Muslim group. Uyghur American protesters say that America is not doing enough. A report highlights racism discrimination towards Muslim health professionals in the United Kingdom. And 2 Indonesians have started their Hajj pilgrimage on bikes. Our top story tonight. President Joe Biden announced Wednesday that his administration is extending the pause on student loan payments until May the 1st. The payment freeze was set to end on February the 1st. The announcement came after weeks of sustained pressure from grassroots advocates and progressive lawmakers. Private companies that manage federal student loans have been lobbying aggressively against the moratorium in recent months. U.S. President Joe Biden has told ABC News that a rematch against Donald Trump could help convince him to run again in 2024.
I'm a great respecter of fate. Fate has intervened in my life many, many times. If I'm in the health I'm in now, if I'm in good health, then in fact, I would run again.
And if that means a rematch against Donald Trump?
You're trying to tempt me now. Sure. Why would I not run against Donald Trump or even the nominee? That would increase the prospect of running.
Biden is still in his first year of presidency. With another individual confessing, CAIR has now discovered 3 persons spying for an anti-Muslim group. The group's alleged goal was to protect the Israeli government by undermining Muslim activists, according to the Council on American Islamic Relations, or CAIR. CAIR says the unnamed person was paid $3,000 a month to spy on prominent Muslim leaders by Steve Emerson's organization. The news comes after last week's revelation by CAIR that its Ohio executive director, Roman Iqbal, had been providing audio recordings to the anti-Muslim group. According to Georgetown University's Bridge Initiative, Emerson himself has had a history of promoting falsified information and conspiracy theories about Islam and Muslims. Judges have been handing down stiff sentences in recent weeks for extremist supporters of Donald Trump who took part in the January 6th insurrection at U.S. Capitol. Federal prosecutors have brought cases against 727 individuals over their involvement in the deadly riots. The longest sentence so far was handed down to a Florida man who threw a wooden plank and fire extinguisher at police officers during the riots. On December 17th, Judge Tanya Chutkan sentenced Robert Palmer to 63 months of jail time, describing the prison term as the consequences of those actions. Chants of Act Now America, Act to Save the Uyghurs have echoed outside the State Department in Washington. A group of protesters rallied Wednesday to mark the 72nd anniversary of China's annexation of the East Turkestan Republic. Renamed Xinjiang by China, the region is largely populated by Turkic Muslim people called Uyghurs. The United States, as well as governments in Canada, Britain, and the Netherlands, have classified Beijing's forced sterilization, detention, and forced labor of Uyghurs and other ethnic minorities as genocide. China seems good at hiding things. While religion is suppressed, Uyghur Muslims are facing genocide at the hands of the Chinese Communist Party. But they still want the world to know that Muslims are free to practice their faith. In this report, Muslim News Report exposes the real truth. Muslims fast during Ramadan. And then they offer prayers on Eid Day and celebrate. But not in China, and definitely not Muslims in eastern Turkestan, which the Chinese call Xinjiang or New Colony. Uyghur and other Turkic Muslims are not allowed to fast nor pray. The police actually go around before dawn, raiding houses if the lights are on. The light indicates that someone is up early eating before fasting. However, this Eid, the Chinese Communist Party decided to fake the Eid. Yes, they created a fake Eid. Here is a clip broadcasted by Chinese state TV. Take a look before we break it down for you. The first thing to note is that this Chinese TV did not show any Eid prayers, because prayers are not allowed. That is consistent with the Communist China's policies. Second, notice the musicians, which are placed at the top of the mosque. As a matter of fact, it is against the Muslim culture to have musicians at the top of a mosque. It is also against the concept of respect among Turkic Muslims, but the Chinese producer probably has not studied Islam deep enough. Here is an earlier video of the mosque. In this 6-year-old clip, you can see a welcoming plaque with a statement of faith in Islam. It was still there 4 years ago in this CCTV video, and there was no Chinese flag. Even in September 2017, the multicolored scriptural plaque was there, but then the Chinese flag was added. It shows how gradually the character of a mosque was destroyed. 2 years ago in 2019, however, that faith-based plaque, which adorned its main entrance, was gone. A Chinese flag is also installed at the top of the mosque. There is hardly any mosque in any Muslim nation which installs a national flag at the top of the mosque. This is simply not done. But in China, those mosques which still exist are forced to install a flag. And in some mosques, a photo of the Chinese president is installed where God's name is written on the mihrab. Kashgar is an ancient Muslim city and an icon for the Islamic civilization. The Chinese Communist Party has erased the historic Islamic identity. This Eidgah mosque was in the center of a bustling heart of the Kashgar. The Chinese demolished houses to create this plaza for tourists. The BBC estimates that 16,000 mosques are demolished in East Turkestan. Thanks to tourists, this mosque still survives. A former imam of this mosque was arrested in 2017 and sentenced to 15 years in prison. The current imam at the mosque, however, denies religious oppression by the ruling Communist Party. The mosque structure dates back to 996 AD. It has a capacity for 20,000 people to pray, but Muslims are no longer allowed to pray here. Here is Aiden Anwar from US-based Save Uyghur campaign. Her family from Kashgar is missing 93 relatives.
I'm an Uyghur Muslim, and right now I have 93 relatives in East Turkestan, also known as Xinjiang, who we deem as missing, meaning we've had no contact with them for the past 3 years. We don't know how many are in these re-education camps and whether they are alive or dead.
Kashgar is almost empty nowadays. Most of its people are in the largest concentration camp since the Nazis. They cannot even practice their faith, except when the Chinese government forces them to dance. Dancing for the party and no prayers for Allah. The 3-year-old Lina Sardar Keel has been missing since Monday from a playground at her family's apartment complex. Lina's family are refugees from Afghanistan who arrived in San Antonio in 2019. Lina's father, Riaz Sardar Keel, said that he and his wife believe she was abducted. The Islamic Center of San Antonio is now offering a $20,000 reward to anyone who provides information to help authorities find Lina. Blanket booster programs in rich countries risk prolonging the battle of COVID-19, the WHO chief has said. The World Health Organization chief is accusing wealthy countries of prolonging the pandemic. He says that rolling out vaccine doses is deepening the inequity around the world. No country can boost its way out of the pandemic. WHO Director General Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus said on Wednesday. Eric Zemmour, the French far-right anti-Muslim presidential candidate, is being criticized by French Jews. Through his talk show on conservative channels, he moved his racist anti-immigration and anti-Muslim ideas to enter the mainstream. The great rabbi of France, Haim Corsia, said in October that Zemmour is certainly anti-Semitic and obviously racist. Al Jazeera reports that Zemmour has said Muslims are colonizing French neighborhoods and claimed Islam is a religion of terrorism. Hundreds of protesters marched through the streets of Kabul on Tuesday morning, calling for the release of the assets of Afghanistan's central bank. The protesters chanted, "Let us eat and unfreeze our money." They called on the international community to support Afghanistan at this critical time. Afghanistan faces severe economic and financial problems, and the hold on its assets and sanctions on the Islamic Emirate have contributed to the problems. The march was organized by the Afghan People's Movement, which in the past has held peace rallies in the capital. The United States froze about $10 billion of Afghanistan's central bank. However, the United States has not yet stated its position on the issue. Shawkat Ahmed Ghani is charged with sedition for writing a favorable comment about Pakistan's cricket team. The BBC is reporting that he is jailed in a high-security jail close to Taj Mahal in Agra. His love, however, was for the Pakistan team's star batsman Babar Azam. He appreciated the Pakistani batsman on a WhatsApp message on October 27th. Pakistan won that cricket match. No lawyers are taking his case, saying that he hurt their feelings by supporting the Pakistan team. A wide-ranging survey of Muslim healthcare professionals in the National Health Service shows a concerning level of anti-Muslim abuse, discrimination, and Islamophobia. The report is co-written by Dr. Hina Shahid, a general practitioner who chairs the Muslim Doctors Association, and Hira Ali, who co-founded the Gray Area. The report is entitled Excluded on the Front Line: Discrimination, Racism, and Islamophobia in the NHS. The NHS is the National Health Service. Almost 4 in 10 surveyed described facing verbal abuse from colleagues about their Islamic faith, in addition to the bias they experience from patients. Taja Ganawan and Mohammed Fuad are riding their bikes from Indonesia to Arabia to perform Hajj. In this footage, they are crossing the Palembang city in Indonesia on December 18, 2021. They will travel about 12,500 kilometers by land route and 750 kilometers by sea route. They will bike for several months. They plan to join in time for Hajj 2022. Coming up next after the break is our in-depth analysis segment, so please stay tuned and we will be right back after these messages.
If I could be you, and you could be me for just 1 hour. If we could find a way to get inside each other's minds. Walk a mile in my shoes. Walk a mile in my shoes. Well, before you abuse, criticize, and accuse. Walk a mile in my shoes.
There are 16 million children struggling with hunger in America. That's 1 in 5 daughters, sons, neighbors, and classmates who don't know where their next meal is coming from. Yet billions of pounds of good food go to waste every year. It's time we do something about it. Feeding America is a nationwide network of food banks that helps provide meals to millions of kids and families in need. Visit feedingamerica.org to help them feed even more. Together, we can solve hunger. Together, we're feeding America.
Despite the development of a COVID-19 vaccine, millions around the world will not have access. We need a vaccine that's free and available to everyone, everywhere. It's time for a people's vaccine.
Dad, they took over my bedroom. Come on, come on. Okay, Dad. 1, 2, 3. Dad! You saved me. Dad?
Are you okay?
I'm fine, dear.
Your hero needs you now, and AARP is here to help. Find the care guides you need at aarp.org/caregiving.
Welcome back. We shared the news of how China is blacklisting 4 members of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom. To discuss this in further detail, let's join Imam Abdul Malik Mujahid. Over to you, Imam Mujahid.
Thank you, Saleha. China is persecuting Uyghur Turkic Muslim to the level that the world is calling it a genocide. China itself considered that to be re-education. Well, we are all for education, but we need to learn a little more about China. What they call re-education is essentially detention camps up to 3 million Uyghur people. Uyghur people are indigenous people living in their ancestral lands. Except China doesn't like the way they live, the way they write, the way they talk, and probably they simply don't like them. They call them New Colony. That's the political translation of Xinjiang, the name they have given to that area because they occupied it a while ago. And now, thanks to America, the world is getting to know this. United States have the U.S. Commission on International Freedom. They talk about the whole lot of world about wherever the freedom, religious freedom is taken away. So they speak about it. So they have decided to retaliate. They have retaliated by putting sanctions on USCIRF, or the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, and its chair, who also is sanctioned it with us for this conversation. We have Nadine Maenza. Welcome to Muslim Network TV.
Thanks so much for having me. It's an honor and a privilege to be here today.
Why China is so angry with you, Nadine?
Well, I think they're angry because, frankly, we have been calling out the atrocities occurring in China against Uyghur and Turkic Muslims, as well as Christians, Falun Gong practitioners, Tibetans, for quite a few years. But recently, our recommendations that we've made to the U.S. government have been implemented. They have announced a boycott, diplomatic boycott of the Olympics. They've sanctioned high-ranking officials in Xinjiang and other parts of the country who are involved in these horrific atrocities and genocide. And they've also just passed the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act in Congress, and the president just signed it maybe an hour ago, and implementing that to become law. And these are all things that we've been fighting for. So we've been very successful, and it's clear to them, it's gotten under their skin.
There was a demonstration on Tuesday in Washington, D.C., by Uyghur people, and they were thankful, demanding that President sign it, which he did. But they were not quite satisfied that enough is being done to stop it. What are the other things United States can do to stop? I know that the U.S. is the leader in putting these sanctions on.
Well, certainly, with this, the new act that has been passed, the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, which at least is going to ban goods and products from the Xinjiang region, is important, adds more sanctions, it instructs the State Department to keep track and report on the numbers of abuses and the kind of abuses happening. But certainly a global movement needs to happen, and the United States should be leading that in terms of pulling goods from China, from Xinjiang in particular, and putting pressure on the government to change their behavior. That's the only way that will be silenced, is if China changes their behavior, and certainly it's going to need the entire global community to speak up.
Well, China being a permanent member of the Security Council, what are the chances that the United Nations will speak up on these issues?
It's disappointing that the United Nations isn't doing more, and it makes it difficult with China being able to veto anything that comes before them. And of course, they have a lot of friends as well that will stay with them. So it is important that the global community acts out in different ways, and that there are consequences for China's behavior. We talk a lot about never again, but yet, companies like Nike, like Hilfiger, all sorts of companies that don't have to be doing business in Xinjiang have been, and some of these even fought this recent piece of legislation because they didn't want to stop producing goods made with slave labor. And so it's really astounding that people are willing to look away at the atrocities that are happening there instead of calling them out and taking a firm stance against them.
What type of sanctions China has placed on you personally, and how do you feel about it?
So they have made it so we can't travel to China, to Hong Kong. They've put sanctions. If in fact we had any investments in China, they'd be frozen. So I don't see them affecting me in my day-to-day life. I certainly am proud that China has called out USCIRF because it shows the importance of our work and me and my colleagues. But I'm still disappointed that they still have the power they have. They're still committing these atrocities. They still have millions in concentration camps, children, over maybe 900,000 that have been separated from their parents in horrible conditions as well. So while I'm proud to be sanctioned, I'm sorry that we're in a situation where China's behavior is causing so much misery and grief to so many people, and we can't just pretend that it doesn't affect us anymore. It's really time that we stand up, and we're pleased that we're seeing so much growth in terms of support. With this piece of legislation passing is proof that Congress got it, the administration got it, and now it's time for the international community to come together. Even if the UN is not going to be a part of that, there's other ways that the United States can lead in putting pressure on China to change the way that they're treating their religious minorities, particularly, of course, Uyghurs and Turkic Muslims.
Was USCIRF ever allowed to visit China?
We have not. And so, it would be helpful to see for ourselves. Obviously, we don't think that will happen now, but we do have a lot of good information coming from the country. A lot of, certainly there's been satellite imagery that has proven the detention centers. I think that BuzzFeed proved with pictures 268 detention centers that were new, that were built in just the last couple of years. So there's a lot of proof, even if we're not able to go and see it for ourselves. But certainly we would prefer to have a dialogue with China. We'd prefer to go and see and have them come up with a roadmap for how they can move away and change in the way that they've been treating all of their religious minorities. But obviously what's happening in Xinjiang is genocide. So, that needs to stop immediately, and the international community needs to be stronger about standing up to China. But of course, China is a financial giant. And we've seen it with the NBA, we've seen it with lots of people in Hollywood where they don't want to offend China. And if anything they cozy up to China. And that's just morally wrong. It's time to stand up for human rights, stand up for people who are suffering from no fault of their own other than their religious identity or their ethnic identity. And, we have said never again, but it's time for that to actually mean something.
Yeah, and China continue to do is propaganda. I mean, recently they released a video, Uyghur people celebrating Eid by dancing outside a mosque. They did not show them praying inside a mosque, because prayer for the communist China doesn't allow Uyghur people to do. So their propaganda machine seems to continue, and sanction on you and 3 other colleagues of yours probably is part of that propaganda machine. But is there any other country other than China who has put any sanctions on USCIRF?
None. No, China is the only country that has sanctioned us.
Well, congratulations. You probably lost $1 billion there.
Yeah, it's interesting for sure. Something I had never expected to happen. But like I said, I'm proud to stand with the people of China, because certainly we stand with the people of China against the Chinese Communist Party and against the atrocities happening to them.
Now, India, earlier this year, when USCIRF, under your leadership, called for United States to declare as a country of particular concern, they issued a statement calling this organization is of a particular concern to them. Did they take any step beyond that? Has India allowed you or any other members of the USCIRF to visit India? So
we have not made an official request to visit. We have dialogued privately and been told it's not possible, but we would like to make an official request to visit. And hopefully they'll give us that opportunity. And again, we're open to dialogue. We want to see, things for ourselves. We certainly have worked with some countries that have had horrific religious freedom conditions, who have really tried to move away from them and to change the way that their government acts with religious minorities. We've seen successes in places like Uzbekistan and Bahrain and Kazakhstan. And so we are seeing places where they want to change the way that their own government treats religious minorities, the way that religious freedom is regarded in their own countries. But we're not seeing that in India right now. We're certainly not seeing that in China. But India is unique because they're obviously, an ally of the United States. We're friends. We do a lot of business together, and they're a democracy. And so we would want better from a democracy. And we're still hopeful that, the trajectory the last few years, which has been in the wrong direction, that can still be turned around to go back to the thousands of years of pluralism that India was known for before the recent government took over.
Thank you so much, Nadine, for being with us. Nadine Maenza is the chairwoman of the U.S. Commission on International Religious Freedom, as known as USCIRF.
And I want to say thanks so much for having me, and of course for raising these important issues. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Back to you, Saleha.
Thank you so much. And that's all from our Toronto studios tonight. Thank you for tuning in. You can find previous episodes and more on our YouTube and Facebook pages. And for more content, please keep watching Muslim Network TV. You can also visit muslimnetwork.tv. Assalamu alaikum and good night.